Hiya, Josh. How you doing, mate? We're really pleased to have you on. So thanks for giving us your time today.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you on, Josh. We're just going to get straight into it as we do. Quick fire questions. Swing or nip?
I'm going to swing.
Pace or bounce?
Bounce.
Nick off or bold?
Bold.
Backhand slowy or knuckleball?
Gonna get back of the hand.
Good joker or a good bouncer?
Bouncer.
Right, so I've just got my score of how many I got right there, Chris.
Yeah.
And I got I got 3 out of 5. Yourself?
You did better than me. I got 2.
He's your teammate.
Really?
How do I know more about him than you?
Well, I think we need to know why Hully what his thinking was with those.
Okay.
Were these things that you wanted to have, or you felt like you do have?
Bit of both, yeah. So with the first one was swing or nip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I think both obviously more what I try and do and what I want and probably prefer. I think obviously being left arm, obviously my main sort of tool is trying to swing it back. And I think to watch as well, swing bowling is something that's probably excited me more.
Okay.
So that was sort of my answer there.
Yeah, I got that one right, by the way.
Yeah, so did I. You went bounce over pace, which I got wrong here.
I did.
Yeah.
I thought you'd just be wanting to go 95 mile an hour.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a pace. It's a difficult one. I think pace, obviously, they're both pretty equal, aren't they? But I think bounce is more unique in a way, isn't it? It's kind of like not everyone. It can be more threatening in a way, I feel, as well. I think sometimes, pace is obviously great and you can fear people with it, but sometimes it can go the distance as well. So I feel like bounce, sometimes if you're beating batsmen with bounce, and I think sometimes when you've seen the keeper take it up sort of there and stuff like that, there's probably nothing more exciting to watch as well. So
Fair enough.
yeah, no, I think they were both. That was a tough one. I think obviously pace is something I probably think comes with it as well. I think you could probably not train pace more than bounce, but bounce is sometimes more of a trying to maximize your height sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. You're not going to. Some people just aren't going to get much bounce no matter what they do, and your level of bounce is very unique, isn't it? Rather than like, let's say, ours. But fair enough. What was the one after that, Keith?
It was a nick off or bold, which I got right. Bold. I had a feeling it'd be bold.
Yeah, I had bold.
Yeah.
No.
To tie in with a left arm in swing.
Yeah. Nothing better.
Back of the hand slowy, I guess right as well, instead of a knuckleball. I feel like
knuckle. Yeah, I went knuckle there.
Did you? Yeah. Again, I think I don't know. I just feel out the back just seems, from what I've seen so far, it's more effective. I feel it's something I don't have. Like my slower, you obviously know, right? So I've sort of just got that, off cutter sort of thing. That's all I've sort of gone with so far. But I think out the back just seems an effective one from what I've seen. Knuckle as well has been nice because if you can get it seam upright, like it's, if you can get it to swing as well, then even better. But yeah.
No, fair. It's funny actually. I feel like that's where you left armers. I mean, we're 2 left armers today. I'm like, I feel like getting ganged up on. You can get away with probably just. I'm not saying you should, but you probably can get away with just having an off cutter. It's just that bit better, it seems, than a right-handed version. Do you know? Is that fair, Keith? Have you found that or not?
No, I know what you mean. Maybe I've not felt the same when I'm bowling to a left-hander. To a short side, like then all of a sudden it's not. You need something else with that.
No, that's fair.
But bowling to a right-hander, yeah, I get you. And then the last one, I thought because of your age, I just thought you'd be a youngster keen to get your Yorkers in, but you've gone with more like a veteran kind of killer instinct to want to hit you in the face.
Yeah. I just think again, I just think Yorkers. I think a bounce is not. If you have a good bumper, I think, if you're going up to games and people are like, he's got a great short ball, I think it's probably feared more and something people don't necessarily like to face. So obviously you have a great York as well and even better, but I think if you have a deadly bouncer, then it's quite a nice thing to have put to your name.
Yeah, it's a different type of language used of he gets his Yorkers in You don't hear how he gets his bounces in. You hear like kind of
especially I think if you're a tail ender as well, you know, like someone says it was a great Yorkie, you're kind of like whatever, but if you're like a great short boy, you're like, oh fuck.
No, yeah, mate, you're spot on there. Actually, yeah, we're not too concerned with facing Yorkers at the end, are we, Hully? To be honest.
No.
I've got to ask before we get into the actual proper questions. Chris had mentioned something to me which I didn't know was a thing. These young farmer little parties, these get-togethers. Can you tell us a little bit about?
No, just I haven't been to one for a while, but yeah, you know, young farmers. Yeah, just something I did as a kid. You know, it was a good social.
So what exactly are they? They're just like local. I mean, where are you from, mate? You're not East Anglia, are you? Like Stamford way, Peterborough way?
Stamford. So like Northamptonshire way, Stamford Oundle. Yeah, so that's where I'm from. But yeah, obviously growing up on a farm. Yeah, obviously all our family friends and stuff are kind of like farming background. So that's all the thing. Obviously, you don't necessarily, you can, you know, a lot of our friends are not necessarily own farms, but they're like that kind of horse ride, like farming, countryside sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, young farmers thing, something I do when you're like 13, 14, 15, like little like local thing where everyone will, yeah, it was good socials, like parties and stuff, and then, good crack, but I think you kind of just get, you know, friends from that, and then you kind of just do your own thing from there. But
you must be a big deal in the farming community now.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the old man is sort of, you know, big on the farming and stuff, and yeah, he says everywhere he goes, I've got, you know, he hears my name pop up every now and then, and yeah.
What do you think? You're the second farming bowler or maybe third actually, bowler that I know of, and all three have been huge. What is it that you lot are being fed that makes you so tall and big?
I know it's very true actually. I think I do just eat. I love my food. Like, I just eat all the time, whatever. But yeah, no, it's probably just all the meat, isn't it?
To be fair, we played Northampton at the end of the year, and Hully, you were doing some rehab, and I think I was more or less as well. But either way, I was out there doing a load of like running, and then I came in to get my feed at the back end of lunch and saw Hully there sat down, and there was no food left. Just cleaned it up. And they're a bit tight at Northampton as well, aren't they? They're like, it's like, you know what I mean? There's not loads of food flying around.
Yeah.
And
Hully I did feel bad that day,
yeah.
It was poor Salisbury, wasn't he? He was had a plate of green, didn't he?
Yeah, he literally just had broccoli, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Okay. So should we get into some enough talk about farmers' parties? Should we get into some bowling chat?
Yeah.
Well, can we start off with, because I want to get it out of the way now, the final over of last year, 2023, 50 over comp, me versus you, Josh. What was running through your head?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing when I think back to it now. I think obviously I've only played one more season since then, but I think in that moment. So do you want to go from the last over, just that last, or?
Oh, it's up to you, mate.
No, we can go as much detail as you want, Hully.
Yeah, I suppose that last, well, even to you, since you came in, I think I was just trying to, one of those days where I just felt I was just going to try and back my Yorker to you. That was kind of my thinking behind it. So like that last over, you on strike, I was just trying to, which is obviously interesting looking back, so obviously we had that short boundary to the leg side, but I was just trying to think, I just felt in the moment like, just Yorker hitting the stump into your pad sort of thing. And then to dorsals, then try and obviously go pace off into the wicket. So I think if I was to play a game again, it probably would be different now. Now I've sort of played a bit more T20 stuff. Like ideally you'd probably kind of go, wide hull, sort of the big boundary and sort of try and hit the wide line, keep it out of your arc sort of thing. But yeah, in that moment, I suppose in the heat of it as well, first time sort of playing in a final, first time sort of in front of a crowd like that as well. just went with what I sort of felt I was going to sort of execute really, and so I was just trying to nail Mallorca.
So okay, interesting, because I think building up to before that last over, I'd hit you for maybe a boundary or two, and then Dorse hit you for a 6.
Yeah.
And my mindset coming into that over was what I'd done previously is get Dorse on strike. And your first ball to me was in the slot.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, get Dorse on strike, and I've clipped it to the leg side. I thought I could have literally got us over the line there. And then that last ball you bowled at me
was full toss, wasn't it?
Full toss, and I was thinking he's going to execute. He's going to go for his york and bowl slot again. So I'm thinking I'm setting myself up for a slot ball.
Yeah.
And then my reaction was, oh no, full toss. Not thinking clearly, clocked it. Oh my God. Safe to say, I set your career with England alight.
Going back to that, you said, I think, the first one I remember I missed short, and then you just flicked it for one, didn't you? And then I was just getting pace off, and then you were back on. I think the second one was good, wasn't it? Like, it was near enough perfect. And then I remember then the last one I was thinking, like, if anything, I want to be fuller here. I was like, I don't want to bowl like a half volley in you, because obviously at that point you're going to try and whack it. So I do remember running in just thinking, I'd rather be on the fuller side here. And obviously it was a low full toss, but worked all right. So
it did.
Yeah, it did, mate. It did. Because by the way, that's the last 50 over game that you've played, isn't it?
It was, yeah. So I didn't play one last year. Yeah.
I mean, that's I find that staggering, really, when you think about it. That literally your last game was a final. It's been a whole year. How do you find that format?
I think it's a nice format. I think it's obviously tough, like physically, because the games come pretty fast, and 10 overs when you're doing that sort of back to back. When you play the whole comp, it's quite a lot, and it's a long time in the field as well when you without realizing it. But I think it's a good format which kind of tests all elements really. Like if you take the new ball, obviously I didn't do it, you and Vian did, but it's sort of that first 10 is very much like as a bowler 4-day cricket in a way. Like you try and swing it, hit a good line and length, and then you then got that middle period where you then kind of just trying to tick over, and then the back end is just then T20 sort of thinking. So I think it's nice in terms of how it brings all formats into play. So I thought it was a definitely a format which I learned a lot from, especially last year. Having been my first year, not playing much cricket, I think it's definitely something which playing in, I felt I learned a lot from.
Yeah, totally.
I reckon you must have been really impressed by the opposition's opening bowlers that game.
Yeah. No, but no, I thought it was good.
So, right.
Sorry,
I'm talking a lot here.
Yeah.
He gave me this piece of information, and this is kind of showing his age as well as mine a little bit. But you were born after Wrighty's debut. Who was your debut with, Wrighty?
It would have been Middlesex. Well, I mean, if you're counting, it'd have been a uni game earlier that year, but proper debut, Middlesex, it would have been.
Well, yeah,
you were born in August, weren't you, Hully?
I was, August the 20th.
2004.
Was that 2004 you made your debut? Yeah. So, start of the summer?
Maybe July, I want to say.
Yeah, so
which is
would have been
what
close,
I find that staggering.
That is crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Wow. How old have you been?
Say that again. How old was I?
Yeah.
Oh mate, you're testing me now. Yeah. What would I don't even know. What would I have been? I was born 1985. 19. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to ask you're older, but that's like me being here now and 20 years time, whatever.
Well, it will happen.
Someone who's not
it might happen.
Yet.
There's a good chance it will happen, mate.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're playing for 20 years, mate, you'll have done well. So fair play to
that's why I keep telling myself 5.
You'll have earned some cash as well by then on the trajectory you're on, let me tell you.
Funny enough, I think we've got to cut it short because you've got to see your accountant about the money you've been earning this last year, I heard.
No, I got stuff to sort before I go to South Africa as well. So yeah.
So what's your movements at the minute then? Obviously you were down to go on a tour, weren't you, pre-Christmas?
Yeah.
But you had a little niggle in your thigh. How's that going, and what's the training for that been like?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, so I was supposed to go to Pakistan in October, so missed out on that, and then just sort of obviously been rehabbing whole of October and then until now. But yeah, to be fair, it's been pretty good. I think it's been one of those injuries where it's never actually felt that bad. Like, obviously, I know I saw you fairly early on after it happened, and I think because it was never a tear where I sort of felt it go. It was kind of just something that just gradually got worse, and so the rehab's been pretty good for it. I mean, obviously it's been taking it pretty slow, but just sort of been bowling back up the last week or two now, and then I'm off to South Africa on the Lions tour on Wednesday. So
nice.
And then I'm back only for 3-4 weeks. I'm back sort of like 15th of December, and then
is that a training tour, or is there matches on that South African tour?
Mainly training. I think there is a game or two at the back end, but obviously with my quad, I think not too sure whether I'm going to play in them. I think it'll just be more of a try and get back to full fitness, bowling 100%, and just try and get a good workload coming out of it. But we'll just see what happens. But there is a game at the end, I think. Yeah.
And what I'm trying to think here. I should know this, but what are England's movements in the new year? Do you know?
So there is another Lions tour, literally 2nd of Jan to like first week of Feb to Australia. So that one's against Australia, I think. So there's like a few test matches out there.
Yeah.
So if selected for that, then hopefully go out and play a few games there. So we'll see what happens.
And is the main England team? When are the main England team in New Zealand?
When are they? Did you say?
Yeah.
When are they going? They've already left, haven't they? So they're there. That's all pre-Christmas, but
oh right.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, because I saw obviously Sony's been bowling in the tent at Loughborough as well.
Right.
So they left on Saturday, I think he was saying. So
okay. So
yeah.
I wanted to get to this because you and Stoney get on quite well now, don't you? Is that both because of your kind of farming nature, or?
I just mean, I sat next to him actually. He was spotted next to me during the test match. And obviously first time I met him, but lovely guy, and easy to get on with, So I enjoyed him. Yeah,
he's he makes me laugh because he's a really nice guy, but then on the field he's quite like, what's the word I'm looking for here, Keith? He's quite angry on the field, isn't he?
He's a secret angry bloke. He sees red mist pretty quick.
Really?
I feel like he's managed to toe the line with it over the years, but for a long time he was just an angry fast bowler.
Really?
He sort of marches around, doesn't he? Marches back to his mark.
Yeah. No.
What about sorry, Keith, go ahead.
I was going to say, so Hully, obviously you've been not playing that long, and obviously you're with the England boys now. You're in that England setup. What's it been like going from having to try and learn off righty to then working with someone like Jimmy Anderson?
It's been obviously it's how fast it's happened's been so it's been crazy really. Like how I don't think anyone obviously saw it coming really, but like I said, I came back from the 100, played that Lions game, and then kind of going back to Leicester, and I was kind of in my head, I was like, there's 4 Champo games left of the year, like I'm just sort of let's just try and focus on playing them. And obviously the first one was then at Bristol, and obviously it was midway through that game when I got the call up, and then I was then straight off to London the next day, and like you say, next minute I was then training at Lord's with Jimmy, and you got first time met all sort of my idols really. When you got Joe Root, you got Stokes, you got like Baz, you got all of your heroes in one room, and it was quite a sort of pinch yourself moment. But yeah, it was crazy. I think I have to say I was quite nervous that first time bowling out in the middle when you got Jimmy sort of stood there as umpire. But it was such a cool experience. And I think the sort of environment they've sort of created I think was so helpful for me to sort of come in. I think the way they sort of all really took me under their arm, and you know, I just think the build up is what really helped me really with when I came to make my debut. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they're going to be nice to you because you're however 6'8" left arm rockets, mate. You're not going to have too many people who want to wind you up. But no, it does sound like an ideal environment to come into. I think, admittedly, I've never played at that level, so I couldn't comment from experience. But by all accounts, you hear it used to be quite a bit different. It used to be a bit more. Less friendly, I think is probably the best term. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit more just do your job. It wasn't quite so welcoming. But I guess that's everything that McCullum's trying to get away from, isn't it? And have an environment where anyone can come in, feel at home, express themselves, and hopefully do well like you did.
Yeah, I think that's it really. I think, you know, when I heard all of them talk, you know, especially I had like Joe Root and then even Jimmy as well. I remember when they were chatting to me, just sort of saying how, you know, this is the best environment you'll ever play, and they're like them sort of saying, you know, their whole career they've never had so much fun playing in this environment now. And like you say, how it was so different so many years ago. So yeah.
From like a tactical point of view, you hear a lot about Bazball, and I hear that he doesn't like the term Bazball, but people can imagine it from a batting point of view, don't they? As batters playing with a lot of freedom, playing aggressively, playing lots of shots. As a bowler, what is Bazball for bowling? Sorry if that sounds wrong, but do you know what I mean? What's the tactical, or what are the tactics from a bowler's point of view that you're being asked to do?
So I think the simple message was kind of, especially for me, it was just kind of all he'd say is, all we want is wickets. Like, just keep thinking, how are you going to take a wicket? That's the sort of theory. Like, they don't really care about runs. They don't care about that. They sort of just set these, you know, attacking fields, and they just talk about how are we going to, you know, put pressure on the batters? How are we going to take wickets and get them out? You know, and that's just sort of the simple message, which obviously I feel, you know, on me, that kind of then takes a bit of pressure off. You know, you're then kind of thinking, okay, like, you know, if I bowl a bad ball, whatever, try and park it and just keep running in and just keep trying to bowl your best ball over and over, and just kind of trust that it's good enough to get them out. So I think that's just sort of the message throughout the sort of week really. It was just kind of just keep thinking wickets, how are you going to get wickets, how are you going to bowl them out, and that was it really.
Well, that's quite interesting because as a youngster, obviously not at the international level, but for myself coming into county cricket, and be interested to see what your thoughts are, Chris, is it was always about trying to not go for runs, like kind of getting through to the keeper. And only as time's gone on, when you know you can do that without even having to think, that you then start looking at the end product of what you guys are basically doing is trying to take a wicket every ball, but not chasing your wicket, not chasing wickets in a sense. So it's a good way of being able to try and fast track that process rather than the fear of, oh, I've got to get my line right, and I need to keep this field and be economical. It's quite a good thing, don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think it works well at that level, maybe at test level, when you know the bowlers have got the ability and potential to do it. I find it'd be interesting. I don't know if I'd advise like a young club player who's trying to get into a county. I don't necessarily think I'd advise them that approach. I think I'd be thinking more around hitting areas, looking after the scoreboard. But I think at the sharp end of the game, which is test cricket, when you're dealing with the best in the world, then I feel like perhaps you can do that. I mean, maybe I'm being really old school. I don't know. Because I remember we chatted about this, didn't we, at Northampton? Because obviously I was really keen to chat to you and see how you got on. And we were talking about this. I'm exactly the same as you, Keith. Just grew up, and people were talking about look after the scoreboard, get in and out your overs. The wickets will come. Don't try and be fancy. And it's like it's a very different. Well, not. Is it a different way of thinking? I mean, I'm assuming, Hully, that you're not expected to like kind of go and try and like bowl Yorkers with a new ball or anything like that. It's just more.
Yeah, I think it's very much like a era thing as well. I think because a lot of bowlers in that dressing room, and I know Jimmy, I think mentioned it at one point, how you know, they were saying, like they say, growing up or when they first came into that England setup, it was you just have to go at 2-3 runs and over. Like that's all you got to think about. And if you're doing that, then you're putting pressure on them, and then the wickets will sort of come. So I think it's just, I think the big thing as well, I think it's trying to have that like shift in mindset as well. Like I think obviously everyone's different, but I felt I had so much more confidence. I think if someone said to me, you know, go out there and you go try and keep them at 3 and over, I think you'd probably be like, oh shit. And then sometimes you might not quite bowl the ball, or you get caught, you know, in two minds sort of thing. Whereas I think when I had that sort of freedom just to go out there and they were like, just, you know, all they were like is just bowl, have fun, and just try and get wickets. And you know, that's all I tried to do, just go out there and do it. And it just made the task obviously feel that bit easier. Obviously it's not easy, but do you know what I mean? Just kind of bit more freedom.
Yeah, no, totally. How did you feel physically? Because I've often wondered this. You know, as someone who's always wanted to play for England and obviously never quite made it. But did adrenaline just get you through the day? So, like, did you get back to your hotel room and just pass out? Do you know what I mean? Or were you?
Yeah.
Or, you know, or how was that side of things?
I think the way the game sort of planned out was quite made it a bit easier in terms of, so that second day was when we had a sort of bowling day, and again like bad light was around in the season, and we didn't actually spend that long in the field at long chunks. So but I do remember feeling, so I think we had like 30 overs at the end of day 2 before we came off a bad light, and that was like my first sort of experience of it. So I think I bowled like a 5-6 over spell, you know, and like you said, I remember coming off, and you do feel, especially when it's your first sort of spell in Test cricket, like you do come off and you know, like I said, I did get back to the hotel and you just crash. And I think the whole thing was quite mentally draining. And I think especially for me, having, you know, I waited a whole day and a half to go and bowl. So I knew 2 days before the game, I had the nod I was going to play. So I was like, okay, so I had the rest of that day to think about it. I then had the next day, the day before the game, to think about it. I then had day 1 sat there watching us bat, thinking like, oh my God, when am I going to bowl? When am I going to bat, sort of thing. And then the next day, it wasn't till like sort of lunchtime, I went out and bowled. So I had so much time to think about it.
Yeah.
And you know, you're thinking over and over that first ball, like how's it going to feel, especially bowling first change as well. Like when you go straight out there, it's kind of all right, so you're straight into it. Whereas, you know, it's that kind of in the field, and then you know you get the nod, like, you know, Pope's like, next over, and then you're like, that's the first time I felt my hands sort of sweat a bit. I was like, oh, here we go, like this is mad. But yeah, that once that first spell was sort of done, and I remember coming off, and then I remember Baz saying to me, "Oh, look, you know, you kind of done the hard part now. You know, you're on the board as well," which made it easier, I think. And he was like, "You know, tomorrow morning you'll run in with 20% more energy," and that, I think that's what happened. I went out there, and next morning, you know, opened up, and I think that was the sort of spell where I just enjoyed it. I think, you know, when you kind of, you know, you're on the board, I felt like the pressure eased off a little bit, and but that first bit was quite mentally draining. Yeah.
Do you know what I will say? Even with that, is I'm just thinking about you saying that and picturing it. Even day 1 warm up before the toss, I bet you were like, I've got to get myself up, I've got to get myself ready. Like, kind of, you'd have been so like wanting to make sure you bowled your overs, you're coming out well. The kind of, not anxiety, but the pressure around it, like we could be bowling first. So how much energy you'd have put into your warm ups alone would have been huge.
Yeah. It was like you say, just it was quite sort of, I was just zapping energy, just sort of just thinking, and like I say, the warm up, and it was just so much time. Like I say, the build up just felt so long. But I think, like I said, once you get that first spell, and then once that first innings, that was probably one of my favourite moments, like coming off, once you bowled them out. Yeah, I think we had a lead of like 80, and then, you know, music in the dressing room, you kind of then just unstrapping your boots, and you're kind of thinking like, wow, like that was the first time I sat back and thought, you know, you just sort of bowled Sri Lanka out and got a few wickets, and that's when it was kind of like, that's when it hit me. But yeah.
That's awesome. What were there any differences that you really noticed from county cricket to international cricket? Because again, I've heard stories where the pace of the game feels slower. Is that true or not?
I don't think it felt any slower. I think it does move a bit slower, but the intensity is definitely
Right.
higher.
Yeah.
Like especially the fields you sort of had. Like there was times where I'd be at cover and I was like one of two guys in front of the bat. So like I had a few balls where I was literally, I think I chased like the third, fourth, and fifth ball to the boundary, and then I was then bowling that following over, and it's like, oh, fucking. I know a couple of times, like in county cricket, it's always get through the overs. I was then like jogging back to my mark, and then I remember that's when like Pope was saying, "Oh, it's fine, we have time, like no need to run, like just walk." And I think that's you do naturally have a bit longer,
Yeah.
but it definitely does move as fast. And I think the other difference was, you feel like you're constantly, there's no hiding, you're watched all the time. I think
Of course.
county cricket, you feel like sometimes, even in the field, like you feel like you can just shut off for a bit, but it never felt like you could. Like obviously it's all on TV, you got crowd like everywhere. It's kind of, it felt like you had to be on it, every single ball, whether you were bowling or in the field. Like it was just kind of that. That's why I think it made it more draining as well, because you are just switched on the whole time.
Yeah. I don't, Keith, how would you feel if you were the only man in front of square whilst bowling and you had to do all that running? That's not where you want to be, is it?
I'll tell you what, if the ball gets hit in front of square, I'm looking at my fielders who are behind square to go and get it. I'm not chasing it.
Imagine that. That is, that's going to be pretty tiring. No, mate, it's great to hear. It's great to hear about the about your debut, because ultimately it's something that everyone dreams of, isn't it? So it's great to get you on and find out exactly what it's like from someone who's living it right now. What about the 100? How have you found that? Because obviously, go fast forward. Obviously we all have players WhatsApp groups. I can't remember when the 100 draft is, but I remember you getting picked up, and obviously everyone was really pleased for you and stuff. So obviously that was another new environment for you this year as well.
Yeah. No, that was, again, like good experience. I think, I think obviously as a team we struggled a bit, which obviously made it tough. But I think ultimately again it was kind of just a good opportunity to kind of play with some sort of other like higher players and new coaches and working alongside other people, and just another opportunity to kind of try and learn and develop your game. But again, that was a cool experience just in terms of that jump up to them playing in front of bigger crowds and that kind of and the hunt is kind of a because it's like T20s, it's very how the crowd sort of reacts, and sort of experiencing all of that was something which was quite cool and new. So no, that was again another good experience in terms of, like you say, having sort of those two both in one summer. And like you say, start of the season, if I this time last year I had no idea, do you know what I mean? So I think if I was here this time last year and said I would have experienced 100 and played in a test match, I wouldn't have believed you at all.
It happens quick. It does happen quick, doesn't it? No, for sure. So fast forward a little bit then. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, we want to know, who are your idols? Is there anyone that you admire that you're trying to perhaps career path that you think, that's for me? I know you've talked about Mitchell Starc with me. Is he someone that you think's mint?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I love how, like, at the minute, like, obviously I'm not one to look too far ahead, like I never have done, but ultimately, like playing for England is always what I've sort of dreamt of as a kid. And so obviously that's what I want to keep trying to do. And I think obviously Stark is a good example as well. Obviously he has played these franchise tournaments and stuff, but how he sort of said how he's prioritized playing for his country and all that. And I think that's definitely something which I'd like to do, if you know what I mean. I think obviously I'd love to go and play in these big franchise tournaments, obviously, but I think ultimately playing for England and playing Test match cricket is sort of the pinnacle, really. So, yeah.
Fair play. Well, if you think like that, I'm pretty sure England will be be pretty happy because obviously you've got pace and you've got the ability to swing it and you've got the height. You've basically got all the tools covered. So, assuming your trajectory is forward, mate, it's really exciting. So I'm pretty sure the England selectors would love to hear that.
Yeah, basically, you have everything that me and Chris could ever want, but don't have.
To be fair, I'm being left-handed, mate. Just a cheat code.
And you know what? It'd be interesting over your. Because I do think you've got a bright future ahead of you. It'd be interesting from those 5 quick fire questions, if they change at all over your period of time of playing. If you then prefer actually pace over bounce. We had Dale Steyn on, and he was just like, no point in bounce, just pace.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when picky, I love both, but I do love pace. But yeah, I think I was thinking more of like you said, from like a unique point of view. I think for me being tall, like stuff I'm working on now is like how can I try and extract my height as much as possible.
Just keep growing, mate.
Keep growing. I think I've stopped now, but yeah, no, it would be interesting to see, if I do change. But yeah, I mean, if you can get both, then obviously even better. But
so come on, we know you've got quicker over time. There must be a number in your head that you'd like to reach pace wise, that you'd be like, yeah, if I can bowl that fast, big tick.
Yeah, I think obviously, I'd love to bowl, in the like 90 miles an hour sort of thing. Like, I think that's just sort of the sort of next level. As in, if you know what I mean, like when you look at, I think, like you say, that's where Starc's like the good example. I think he's someone who just bowls high 80s, 90s, sort of consistently all the time. But I think pace is something I've never thought about in terms. I've never thought, I have to get quicker. I have to be, and try to train to be quicker. I've kind of, my focus has always sort of been, one, obviously the technical point, like obviously what I'm still working on now, and then obviously from a skill point of view, and then kind of hoping. I think in my mind I've always thought, I'm going to get bigger, I'm going to get stronger, and my mindset's sort of been the pace will just naturally come. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, bowling 90 mile an hour consistently would be obviously the dream.
What's the quickest you've been timed so far? Do you know?
I mean, I don't think I haven't been clocked that much, to be fair, but I know in the 100, I think I had like one ball at 89, but that was the quickest one I saw. I think in the test match, obviously over that period, I think my average pace was like 83. Quicker ball was like 87. So I think for me, looking at that going forward, it's kind of like, well, can I just try and shift that consistent speed from that 83 to like 87, for example, and try and have my quicker ball being the consistent sort of pace. So I think that's sort of the mindset.
I think with just like you've been growing quite a lot, I think with the timing of your action, when it clicks, you'll find that you're probably around the 90s anyway, especially as you get older.
I agree.
Body adjust to just bowling more consistently. I think you'll find that anyway. I think it's more about how fast can this 90 mile plus ball be? How much can I get it? How well can I get it right? And how much effort can I get behind it to get it in that 92, 93 even? You never know. Never know.
How old are you now, Hully?
20.
Yeah, see, I mean, I don't know what Keith thinks, but I genuinely think in terms of pace, I look at Mark Wood. Like Mark Wood's bowling is the quickest he's ever bowled. He's 30. You definitely have this is going to sound a bit silly probably, but I reckon you're a rugby guy, so you might have heard it. Have you heard the term like man strength? It's just like, it's almost like when you get to like 25 and above, you actually, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean here, Keith? Yeah, honestly, mate, you've got, you could naturally become scary quick, I reckon.
Hully, at 20 years old, mate, I wasn't even bowling, and I bowled. My fastest ball was at 88 miles an hour a few years after that. So on that, you could be bowling maybe 170 mile an hour. Who knows?
You know what makes me laugh, right? Is whenever you get a new bowler, is in nets, right? When everyone's wondering what's going on. So I remember rocking up to like Loughborough, and this would have been the winter before you made your county debut. So it'd have been the winter of 2023, or like the January, February. You know, when we go into Loughborough.
Yeah.
And I remember like Parky. There'd always be a bit where it dips and be like, "Oh, do you want a bat?" And I'd be like, "Oh, not really. I'll just face the machine." You know what I mean? But Parky, where he was expected to bat maybe at 8 a bit more, would obviously have to face bowlers. And I remember him facing you one time, and you were bowling absolute rockets indoors at him. He was so spewing. He was, you know what he gets like? He gets a bit grumpy. He was really cross. He was facing you and someone else. I think. I think you might have peppered him, maybe hit him on the gloves or something.
Yeah, it was that. I think that was the session where I do remember. I think it was the first time we went back. We bought a Loughborough, and we got the mat out, and then we had a keeper as well. Oh. I do remember that ball actually, where I remember, and it felt so long in Loughborough. I remember seeing the keeper and thinking, "Fuck, it's quite a long way back here." And I remember running in and thinking, "Fuck, I have to really try and like hit the gloves harder." And I remember just bowling it and like just not accidentally bowl. I think it was sort of like a back of a length ball, but obviously on those mats, just like kicked on. I think he was gloving it up here, and it was sort of like just past his head. I
remember. I think I was behind.
Yeah.
I think I was standing like my first slip or something, just watching, and I remember being like, "Oh, Parky." Oh dear, funny.
Yeah.
Really good time.
Brilliant. We had it one pre-season where our bowling coach had done a bit of analysis and realised that we didn't bowl that many bouncers, so we had to start practicing them in nets against each other. And we had a really good teammate, a really good friend of ours, good teammate Ricky Clark, who you never really wanted to cross because he'd blow up quite a bit. He was batting, and it was kind of who's going to bowl the bouncer first. And I think it might, God rest his soul, Tom Allen, a young lad, bounced him, and Clarkey was just like, "Right, wait till you're batting, youngster."
That's one thing I dislike. I can't bowling short ball to your teammates in the net unless you are, they hit you a few boundaries and then you do see a bit of red, then fair enough. But the amount of times I'll be in the net, and especially in my first year as well, where Fonz will be like, "Go on, like bottom of a bumper," and it'll be like Scriv batting or something, and I'm like, "Oh no!" And I remember just bowling it, bumping him, and then he would like throw the ball back at me, and I'd just be like, "Wasn't me." As in, like, Fonz has obviously initiated it.
You know what? I will say this. So we had a bit of a bowlers union thing. Bowlers don't bowl bouncers at bowlers. Simple as that.
Yeah.
For years, me and Chris, we roomed together, we travelled together. We go out for food and everything else. Like, kind of just got on really well. It always seemed that they'd always have him bowl at me, and the odd time I'd bowl at Chris. And for years, we never bounced each other or anything. This one time, this guy decides to let me have one for no reason. Nearly took my chin off. And I don't know if you picked up with right yet. He has I knew something was wrong because he was, he grunts a little bit. When he's a bit annoyed, right, he gives it a bit of a... He was doing that. I'm thinking, what's wrong with him? Next time I'll get one round my face. He then apologises after the session and begs me not to bounce him back, which I thought was quite rude.
Well, I think, you know what? I mean, it's different. I think everyone here, a lot of people can sympathise with where you are there, Hully, because quite often coaches do want bouncers to be bowled, and you do feel bad. But ultimately, it's you or them, isn't it? At the end of the day, you know what I mean. You have to. I think I bowled a couple of bumpers at Roman. You were there.
I remember that. I think I was watching from the side. White ball practice, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, you just walked at me, and I thought, I'm not having that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the minute you settle for stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know. I like the competitive side, so you just let Scriv have it. Let him have it. To be fair, Fonz obviously was your bowling coach, Keith. He's now our head coach.
Yeah.
Fonz was a real competitor. So like those kind of, he loves that. He loves it. He was horrible to play against. I was too young for him to really care about me at the time, but like he's very competitive, Fonz, like in a good way. Like that's definitely something that he has. But it is a funny dynamic, the old bumpers in nets. But you were just doing your usual thing, Keith, I think, taking the top of off ball and hitting it through my wicket. And I was like, what the hell? You know what I mean? But yeah, good fun. It's all good fun. But look, we've got you 45 minutes, and we really appreciate you coming on. We know you've got a lot of cash now that needs to be dealt with by your accountant. So we'll wrap it up there. And we really appreciate you giving us the insight into the England dressing room, because it sounds like a great place to be, mate. And yeah, we're excited for you here. And yeah, I think you'll be there for a long time, mate.
I'll see. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. No, thanks for having me.
Cheers, all the best, mate.
Our pleasure.
Cheers. That's one.